Good evening. Welcome to the We're Happy Few 506 podcast, History on Your Doorstep. And joining me today or this evening is Mike Simons,
Symons, yeah, spot
Simmons,
on.
um, who wrote the book, the wonderful book, A Travel Book Too Far. How you doing, mate? I know we had a bit of a
Yeah,
chat there for about 20 minutes. I thought
yeah,
let's get cracking because we're actually talking about some good stuff. Just the conversation is really flowing.
yeah. No worries. Yeah, thank you very much for having me on, Leighton. Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to be on the podcast. So,
Yeah, how's your day been? I mean, we got some lovely
y-
heat. How is
yeah,
it where you are in the world?
it's hot, very very hot down here in very sunny Sussex. But yeah, no, it's been a good day. Just spent the day pacing around nervously, waiting to do this podcast. Really, trying not to annoy the family too much. Really. So yeah,
No pressure. No pressure at all.
yeah, no pressure.
So I know I'm nervous. But now we were just chatting beforehand and I was just looking at the time and we were like, my God, we've been chatting about 15 minutes and it was just, for me, it was quite fluid. And it's just quite organic as well, really, because we were just bouncing around and just sort
Yeah,
of, bits, I suppose influences of history. And I think that's probably a really great topic area to start on. Sorry, a bit of a joke there. It's in Mike's book, so I'm not going to say anymore. Um, uh, about certain techniques. But no, I suppose influences of history. And
yeah.
this is actually a really good opener to your book as well. And God, I got, like I said, so many notes in here. Um, I suppose, yeah, the first of all is, you're not a travel expert.
No,
You're not a history teacher
no.
or a film critic. It's in his book, by the way. This is not me slighting him. That's on his first page. So what are you, mate? Because that for me, that's straight away a question of because it leads quite nicely into why you've done this book, and I think it's a
Yeah,
wonderful book, by the way.
thank you.
And you're very honest in that opening line or that opening page. So yeah, I'd say, who are you in
Yeah, I mean,
general?
I didn't want to try and be something I'm not. So I thought, yeah, that could be my strong opening line. Yeah, I'm not any of those things, but massive history fan, massive film fan, massive travel fan. That's who I am really. History came. I'm talking about it in the book, but history comes from my grandfather, my mum's dad, who we call Pops. Spent a lot of time with him growing up, loads and loads of time. And he served with the Royal Air Force during the Second World War in Bomber Command. He was ground crew, worked on the Lancasters, and served out of the RAF Tuddenheim, I think is how you pronounce it, in Cambridgeshire.
Okay.
And 90 Squadron was his squadron. And in his little study in his house, so I'd spend a lot of time with him. I'd go up to his study and he'd be sat there, and above his desk was this remarkable painting of a Lancaster in the mist, in the morning mist, and ground crew working on it. And I've got it now up in pride place in the house. And he just used to talk about that picture and the Lancasters with so much passion. And then across one wall was just hundreds of books, all World War II books, all with that smell, that really old,
Mm,
musty smell. It's like the best book smell ever. It's
yes,
a
I
weird.
agree.
Most people say cut grass or whatever,
Nah,
but or whiskey or wine. No, it's like musty book smell. It's great.
Rusty books, I
And
agree.
and again, all those books have made their way into my bookshelves, which is great. And then on the opposite wall, with this painting of horse gliders and parachutists coming down on Operation Market Garden, so you have these two contrasting paintings. And I used to just sit in that study from a very young age and just chat and listen to all his stories, which all started with there was this one night we were drinking in this pub, we were drinking in this pub, and there was no heroic stories. It's all just about his mates playing poker with the Canadians and all this stuff. And it just sounded magical, really. And yeah, he sort of told me about all these things, but then pushed me to be inquisitive and ask
Mm,
questions. And that's where this all came from, really. And then so I started talking to my nan, and she was evacuated, and my granddad was during the Blitz. He was studying for his kind of GCSEs, whatever the equivalent was back then, and down in a tube station. My gran on my dad's side was born in Burma and fled Burma, excuse me, when the Japanese came. So, and suddenly this world just opened up, really. And yeah, it was him that gave me that inspiration for history. And so he took me everywhere, you name it. Duxford, Imperial War Museum. If there was a museum to do with war or something had something in it, and we went to loads of air shows together. So this is long before I've even seen
mm.
Band of Brothers. But then Band of Brothers comes along in 2001, and that's it. And then Medal of Honor Frontline on the PS2 comes out, and
Yes, I remember
Saving
that.
Private Ryan, and suddenly, my interest goes into the stratosphere, and we went and did the Normandy beaches, my grandfather and my nan and I, and yeah, that's where it came from. And then he very selfishly passed away about 11 years ago, really selfishly, and we'd had a market garden trip planned for years, and
Mm,
life just got in the way of his health. Me being a teenager in the towns and all that, so we never got around to doing it really. But we always had this trip planned, so it's why when I came up with camper history, I wanted to. That's the first place I knew I had to go. But when he passed away, I didn't particularly deal with it overly well because he was my mate. So
mm,
it was like he was my mate, and so but I love to write and I love spy films. Big James Bond fan, bigger than I'm happy to talk about that as well. Big James Bond fan.
mhm.
Um, and so I started writing these spy stories set in World War II, and I'm on the 14th book now, my 14th and final book, and I named the main character after him because it was a way of discovering World War II stuff and taking him through the war and still being with him, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But then writing love scenes about your grandfather as a spy in World War II is probably a bit weird, and I'll need counselling for that later on in life, I bet imagine. But yeah, so and then I kind of realised, oh God, I want to write books. So I've
Mm.
self-published everything I've done. I've self-published because I haven't found a publisher kind enough to take me on yet. But I quite like self-publishing because you keep control.
Yeah.
So yeah, the dream really is who am I? Hopefully, I'm a writer at some point, or I am
No, it's
already.
what.
But yeah,
No, man, that's wonderful. God, there's so much there, and I think you're right. It's movies, isn't it, that gets us into it, as well as
Ah,
obviously from your case, family members as well. Where was your nan evacuated to out of
yeah,
curiosity?
so yeah, it's quite cool actually. So my nan's dad was the head primate keeper at London Zoo, and her uncle Alec was the head reptile keeper. And so he stayed in London with the animals. A lot of the animals were then evacuated to, can't remember the name of the zoo. It'll come back to me in a minute. Kent Way, if I remember right. And she went out that way. So yeah, so the family moved to be with and continue to move with the animals. So it's a mad story. But yeah, so that's where she was evacuated. So she was lucky to have been evacuated with mum and dad, which
Hmm.
is quite a unique story for a child from that time. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
but she does remember the early parts of the Blitz and sitting in an Anderson shelter and things like that. So hearing her stories as well from that different perspective, just insane, really. Um,
No, you're right. It's to have somebody to talk about that. I think it's phenomenal. And sadly, those stories are vanishing. I mean, my grandparents, they were too young for that. And I think on my grandmother's side of my father's mother, her father was, I think one of the Welsh regiments, but then he
wow,
just got pulled back. You're a miner. You're going back down the mines. We need miners.
wow, okay,
So you sort of got pulled. Yeah, but so didn't really get spoken about, obviously, because that was quite a desired job, wasn't it? One of those
yeah,
more, we needed coal for the
yeah,
ships, for
absolutely,
everything. So he got, yeah. So, he did sign up, I want to say, as a medic. I'll have to ask my father which regiment, but yeah, just pulled. No, you're not doing
wow,
that, mate. You're going back down there. Um,
yeah,
Forget about all this fresh air, and
yeah.
traveling the world. You're going down that big hole in the ground, no fresh air.
Absolutely,
You're not going anywhere. Um, so yeah, no, it's really interesting. And gosh, you talk about films as well, because I think that's a really cool way, an intro to history as well. And the guys I had on a couple of weeks ago, Bob and Brian, Memphis Belle was their
yeah,
intro. And for me, that was probably that was sort of scratched my surface because that was out when I was a kid. Um, Although it didn't get me in a deep dive like Band of Brothers did in reading, but certainly capture the imagination of war films in a weird way. That I wanted to do something like that.
yeah,
And I hate to say this is such a quite a I've never asked this question before, but if you were, and again, it's watching movies or TV series. So when I watched Memphis Belle, I wanted to be a waist gunner.
yeah.
If I ever served in World War II. Did you ever have that sort of imagination as well? Did that sort of
Oh,
watching the movies? And what was
100%.
it?
Yeah, 100%. Battle of Britain, original Battle of Britain, 1969,
Mm,
I think, if I remember rightly.
great movie.
Yeah, it's a bit Power Pilot. every day of the week, Spitfire pilot, and then I'd bang on about it. I was really lucky because I was introduced to four Band of Brothers and 75 run. I've done The Great Escape, I've done
Oh, so good.
Battle of Britain, Dam Busters, Longest Day, British Star, and when I was banging on about wanting to be a Spitfire pilot, because my granddad had worked in Lancasters, he said, "No, you've got to watch the Dam Busters. If you're going to be anything, you're
Mm.
going to be a Lancaster pilot." So there I was. So I was lucky to watch the classics, as I would call them. You know, the
Mm.
Memphis Bells and stuff
Hmm.
before the more modern stuff, which is Band of Brothers is a stratosphere on its own. It
Hmm.
has to be put up here on its own.
There's
But
some
yeah, I
good
was,
movies though from back in those classics, like 633
oh
Squadron. My
yeah,
God, that's a
absolutely.
great.
And the thing about it is in then they did it for real. They built the real
Hmm.
sets, they had the real planes, the real tanks and stuff, and that's why I love those movies.
No, you're right, and it's with 633, I was looking at when I can't help wonder, and it's the same with War Lover with Steve McQueen as well, another one. Oh, and that was filmed at Bovington, and
Ah,
they venture into Cambridge, but it's like got this fake blue screen behind it, which is not
yeah,
Cambridge. It is Cambridge, but they're not there. Looks like,
yeah.
um, and yeah, B-17's there. But yeah, 633. Oh God, what aircraft was that? I would say I don't want to get it wrong.
Mosquito. Was it
Mosquito.
Mosquito? You say yeah,
Yeah, and I was looking at, I was where were they filmed? Because I went to Memphis Belle the other week, and I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And
yeah.
so for 633, part of it, they filmed it, not far from here, Staverton, RAF,
Wow.
or what was RAF Staverton, now Staverton Airport. But I'm
Yeah,
trying to sort of figure out where. I suppose I need to rewatch. It's a good excuse to watch it again. Get me
absolutely.
doing my then and nows as well.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely, 100%. I love those, by the way. Yeah.
but you're right though. It's they used the real stuff. I mean, even Memphis Belle, they used five or six real B-17s. I mean, one crashed and they lost one. But I think that's what makes it so much. I hate to say it, better in terms of
Oh,
I don't know, not better, but what's the word?
yeah, I know it gives it that realism, I think, and yeah, 100%. And I think it about the Bond films, and funny enough, for the new book for Normandy, I'm doing some research on Ken Adam, who was the production designer on the early Bond films. So he built like the hollowed out volcano and stuff and designed all that. But he was a Typhoon pilot on D-Day
Hmm.
and served in Kent. And he's a fascinating guy. But again, reading about him, he built those sets. So there wasn't green screen, there wasn't CGI. That hollowed out dead volcano
Hmm.
in You Only Live Twice is real. And again, those Spitfires in a Back in Britain are real. And they drove up a Hell's Highway in filming A Bridge Too Far and stuff. And that's what I love. And like The Longest Day was predominantly shot, or a lot of it was shot in Normandy.
Mm.
And it just gives it that realism. You just feel like you're there, which I love.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's it. I need to watch Longest Stay now because I need to, off to Normandy, and I saw it and go, oh yeah, maybe it's some then and now stuff to be done as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
That's from,
absolutely.
and I think there's that house, isn't it? When the woman in the window. So I need,
Yeah,
I haven't been there yet. So yeah, they can go there. But
yeah,
you mentioned you're a Bond fan as well.
yes.
Do you know he's based on somebody who served in World War II, James Bond? Not Ian Fleming. It's I'll have to tell you this now. See, I should have searched this before asking that question. There's a museum in the far end, I want to say Kent. You'll have to
Yeah,
excuse the name. I went there in January and like I think he was part of the SAS
yeah,
in Normandy. Not he wasn't part of the African, North Africa campaign. He was recruited
yeah.
afterwards. So if I can, this is really bad prep on my part, so I must
That's fine.
apologize.
Not at
Um,
all.
and where is it? 'Cause I went early, and it was just fascinating. So all these little trinkets, and if I can remember the museum, I'll have to let you know.
Yeah,
But
please. I was only down the road from me, so
somebody goes, oh, James Bond was based on because Captain Peter Mason. I want to say Captain Peter Mason,
right. I've written that
and
down.
so if you go to this museum uh, I will tell you where this is, Malden.
Yep.
Um, it's got all this so much kit, let's just say that, of
Nice.
Peter Mason and his wife, um, of what the kind of stuff they had from, let's have a look, weaponry, pistols, machine guns, um, long barrel pistol that just looks like it should be, in a circus, a clown would use, one of
Yeah,
those. Just utterly phenomenal. I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, oh my God, like this is, and he was in the SAS before he became, I think it what was, again, if I get this wrong, the OSS.
yeah.
Um, before that became, was it MI5, MI6? Trying to
So
get
the
it right.
SOE would have been the SOE he was in? Or
No,
oh,
I think SOE was more for World War II, wasn't it?
okay, yeah,
I think, but I'll have to sort of check. But what was fascinating in this museum in Malden, there was a sword there. So some medieval on the bottom floor, all medieval stuff, and there was a sword there from a village near my hometown. That's found in a village near my hometown, which is, well, it's between my town. Sorry, this where this sword is found, yeah, is a place called Cowbridge, and that's near a marshalling camp, which is something I'm exploring at the moment because I just came across something in a book, and I think that's a great thing about reading. I think I got a
yeah,
book here. Here I go. It talks about marshalling camps in South Wales, and it's near there, and that's where the 82nd Airborne, um, went from the seaborne element for D-Day,
yeah.
uh, Ox Oxford to Omaha. That, yeah, if you
Nice.
can see
Okay.
that.
Yeah,
Really interesting because it's all about, World War II in South Wales. But yeah, and yeah, so this sword was found as well. I just thought, my God, live, I'm in the far end of England here, and there's a sword here from near home. And it's the
that's
same
weird. Yeah.
village. And it's the same village. And I think it's a nice little segue into the market garden. Um, same village where Anthony Hopkins went to grammar school as well, who is in Bridge Too Far.
British Car, one of the greatest war films ever made, and I'm not going to be
So,
persuaded otherwise.
no, 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 no. I need to rewatch it to sort of refresh that, But one of the comments you made in your book as well was the cast. And I
Yeah,
love how you compare it to the Avengers, because obviously they've got the modern headline, as you could say. I hate to say, I hope they don't listen to this. Um, is I don't think some of them are good actors
yeah,
in the
I agree.
Avengers. Robbie Downey Jr., phenomenal. I watched him in
Yeah,
Charlie as a chaplain a couple of weeks ago. He is phenomenal. But the rest are to be desired. Let's just say that.
yeah, I'd agree. And but they are just these massive names now, aren't they? Whereas
Mm,
I think with the Bridge Too Far and that cast is every one of them is just a huge no name. Most of them won Oscars. Most of the
hmm.
British ones are knighted. It's just phenomenal cast.
And I think that's it. I think that's what segue. It's sort of not another seg, but that's the difference between that cast who are, yeah, you're right. They are these huge actors of this modern time, but are they good actors?
Yeah.
But you go back to A Bridge Too Far, and I think I just, looking at the list you had,
It's
um,
so yeah. Hopkins, so Anthony Hopkins, James Caan, Sean Connery, Michael Caine, Gene Hackman, Laurence Olivier, Dirk Bogarde, Robert Redford, Edward Fox, who's I think the best of that in that film. The best of all of them. His scenes are just
mhm.
magical as horrors. But yeah, I mean, I think I've probably missed a few off, but
Oh, you probably because it's just a stellar cast. It's a
yeah,
stellar cast. And I say a friend of mine, he's an old friend. He's in it, but he also trained them as well. A guy called Jack Mackenzie. He was a Royal Marine.
yeah,
Um, and he trained the guys. He's also in Star Wars, by the way, Empire Strikes Back.
no way,
So he's in the scene where they're in the Hoth Rebel base, and he goes up to Han
yeah,
Solo. We need to close the blast doors. Um,
no way. That's so cool.
he's in a bridge too far as well.
Wow.
But you're right. It's Dirk Bogarde, Gene Hackman. My God,
Yeah,
alive. I mean, you got Hannibal Lecter, James Bond, Ross. Ross's dad and friends. But Gene Hackman, Lex Luthor as
yeah.
well. But he's a superb actor. I mean, he recently passed away, but my God, he's in some good ones.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
but you're right. That's a stellar cast, and I suppose, yeah, what attracted you to then, Bridge Too Far? Then what really,
Uh,
sucked you into that movie?
Yeah, I think the other, I love all those other classics I mentioned previously, but I think it's probably Sean Connery being in it. So I'd gone from those early Bond films and then into watching this film, and then I was just hooked with it from moment one. I think it helps that it's shot in color.
Hmm.
So sort of from a young age, I think I would have watched it about age 9 or 10. I reckon I would have been
Hmm.
so quite pretty young. So the fact it's shot in color gives it an advantage over like the Dam Busters or Longest Day. But yeah, I think it's the cast, the way it's written, the music, the action. I say Edward Fox, when he stands up and does his briefing speech, which I think I've pretty much got off book now, script wise in my head. It just blows me away. And yeah, and the thing I really like about it, as I've got older, and I've watched it so many times for the prep for the trip last year and writing the book, um, is the fact Market Garden is a failure. So the
Hmm.
film ultimately is a failure in terms of the good guys don't win. So to
Hmm.
see Connery, who's never lost in a film, suddenly lose, or Michael Caine lose, or Robert Redford lose, these are guys that are the heroes. They win and they get the girl at the end and roll credits. So in a film where they don't, and Anthony Hopkins gets taken prisoner as Frost and all these things, I find that really interesting and a really interesting way of making a film. Really. And I think it was a brave film. I think it's a really brave film to make
Mm.
because it's not it's an anti-war film and because the good guys don't win and actually for Levine the producer to take that gamble and I think it was a gamble and I think it paid off and I think it stands the test of time really.
Yeah, I think for me, I think it's still well loved as well by a lot of people. People always say bridge too far, bridge too far. If you can watch a film, bridge
Yeah,
too far. Um, and you're right. I think the fact that it doesn't show the good guys winning, what's that back end of Vietnam? Vietnam is
yeah, yeah.
just finished. That wasn't, what was it, 77? No, yeah,
Yeah, so it's
77.
shot in 76, released in 77. So yeah, it's the 50th year of its filming this year and released this year. So yeah. Um,
And I think, when something like that political, uh, I suppose incident, however you ever want to call it, that sort of negative coverage with Vietnam, you could say, and then to have a film where it just shows them losing, I suppose, again, the Allies or the good people,
yeah.
you know, that sounded wrong then, but
No, no, absolutely.
yeah, to show them losing, I mean, yeah, you're right, that's a hell of a gamble.
Yeah.
I mean, how did it perform in the theaters? Do you know?
If I remember rightly, theatres it didn't. I don't think it did it hugely well. It came out the same year as
Star
I think
Wars.
Star Wars. Yeah, it was a New Hope, wasn't it? The same year as New Hope. So yeah, I think it was blown away from that point of view. If I remember rightly, I think Edward Fox won a BAFTA for it. And I think the score won a BAFTA and possibly an Oscar, I think. But other than
Hmm.
that, that was it. Critically didn't do particularly well with the critics either, if I remember rightly. But it was there was a deal done in the background for Dickie Attenborough, Richard Attenborough, Traffic Park, obviously, and Gandhi. But he did a deal to direct this as long as he got to direct that Gandhi, which was his passion project. And then Gandhi becomes this absolute incredible film. And Dickie Attenborough goes on to do become Santa and the owner of Jurassic Park. So
The owner of Jurassic Park.
it's
But no, you're right. I mean, yeah, it's got a great casting. I mean, I'm just looking at it now. It's got Spock's dad in here from the Star Trek reboot as well. Ben Cross. Didn't realize he was in it.
yeah.
I mean, because that's a great film in itself. It's who else? There's quite a lot in here. I mean, I'm just looking through it. It's a great
I
cast
mean,
list. Garrick,
Elliot Gould.
Eric
Sorry, go on.
Gould. I was going to
Yeah.
say, so speaking of Star Wars, Garrick Hagen is in it as well, who plays Lieutenant Rafferty. So in Star Wars, his scenes got cut, but he's quite well renowned as being Biggs in Star Wars.
Okay.
Luke Skywalker's best friend. So again,
Yeah.
I'm just looking through it now. I just must have
No,
glossed
and
over it
there's
before.
the guy. He was in Cheers. He died last year, I think. But he was in Cheers. He
Oh,
played the mailman in Cheers, and he's the voice of
George
Ham in
Wendt.
Toy Story. Yeah,
Oh, mhm.
he's in the River Wild crossing scene with Robert Redford. He's in the
Oh,
boat
John
just behind him.
Ratzenberger. He's
That's
still alive,
it.
isn't he?
Is he? Oh, I've just
I think
killed him off.
it's
I've just killed him off. Sorry.
I think it was George Wentz who died, wasn't it?
That's it. Yeah.
I hope Ham hasn't died. I like him. He's quite a unique voice as well. He's brilliant. He just
Absolutely.
He's always in those Pixar movies as well.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, it's a great cast, and I mean, it's got 7.4 average on IMDb. The poster
Yeah.
itself, I feel like that's an iconic poster. The paratroopers in the sky, the list of all, the stars. I mean, is Anthony Hopkins on? Anthony Hopkins on it. He was a rising star at the time, so he
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily in the same, I would say at that time, in the same field as those guys at that time.
Yeah.
Now
I
he
agree.
is. He's um, but you're right. That's a bloody great movie poster as well. And you're right. It's just yeah. It's showing the loss, and you don't really see that, do you, in
No,
movies at
you
all?
don't.
That's
No. And even if you take in modern films, Saving Private Ryan obviously has
mm,
a tragic ending and what have you with it, but ultimately we've
mission
won the
accomplished.
beach and mission
Yeah.
accomplished. Exactly that. So most of these films do have that happy ending, and so to have one that doesn't, I don't think that's why it's just stuck with me as a film. I think it's a really interesting watch. But as I say, there are just scenes. I talk about it when I went to the Son Bridge, which blows up and scene with Elliot
Hmm.
Gordon, and that was actually, having read it a few years later, I believe, to Dick Winters and Lewis Nixon. They were hit by rubble from that bridge blowing up, which is not shown in Band of Brothers. But when he stands up and Elliot Gordon, there's all stuff falling down, bricks and stuff falling
Hmm.
down around him, and he just shit. And at 9 years old, that's hilarious.
Hmm.
And it still makes me chuckle now. As a 38-year-old child, it still makes me chuckle. But so there's loads I say, and I could go on about it for hours really, and that's why I
No, no.
wanted to do the Market Garden trip, because I wanted to go and walk those, because I knew it was filmed, more or
Hmm.
less, set up into Venta for the Arnhem stuff, but the rest of it was on location. I thought, oh, how great would it be to go and walk these same streets
Yeah.
that the heroes did in 44, and then the movie heroes did in 76.
How first of all, yeah, before we move on to the next question,
That's all right.
how many times a year do you watch it then?
I watch it once a year. Briefly, far once a year. Last year, I watched it 4 or 5 times, I think, in prep for the trip, and then once on the trip as well, because you got to, and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there was I watched it actually in Nijmegen, right on the riverbank. I had this amazing campsite right on the riverbank. Door open, there's the river, they did the wild crossing on, and I'm watching a British farm, and it's just like, let's get
Very
going
cool.
with a beer in the hand, So
Yeah.
what can be better? So
No, that's pretty amazing. So, you're planning for the trip. So, obviously, a trip you wanted to do with your grandfather. How long, how long before you came to the decision that you need to execute, to do this trip,
yeah.
and then, doing it in, I suppose, how did you go around planning it? What was your, I suppose, your roadmap?
Yeah, I mean, for me, as I say, we had the outline of a plan for ages, and then along comes Al Murray and James Holland, and they do some podcast apparently or something, so I've heard, and some YouTube channel, and their stuff is really cool, and they talk about walking the ground, and they do a great documentary on YouTube about that and stuff, and mention it on that podcast they do, but which isn't as good as this one, obviously, and
Obviously, obviously.
obviously, so I watched their stuff and I realised I wanted to go there. I ended up being very lucky and getting my own camper van. And last year I'd had sort of a bit of a stressy, crappy year, and I kind of wanted to do something. And I think I was annoying my family, and they just wanted me to go away and just go and do something interesting. And I thought, well, let's go do something World War II with the camper van. And so I thought, yeah, sod it, let's go to Holland. So the planning really went from there, and I bought Major and Mrs. Holt's travel book, which comes with a map. It's really good. It comes with a map and mark it on all the sites. They've done one for Normandy and for World War One, and so that's the roadmap really. And I sort of started thinking, right, well, I'll watch A Bridge Too Far, and where do I want to go? And I realised, let's do it logically. Let's follow the Route
Hmm.
34. Start in Leopoldsburg in Belgium, because that's where they do the briefing scene, which is my favourite scene. And then let's follow that route up through Eindhoven and Nijmegen up to Arnhem, and then you kind of think, well, I might as well go up to Deventer while I'm there, because that's where they shot the film. And it was an excuse to buy every single book, and every single DVD and everything, and showing my age there, we're saying DVD really, but and rewatched the films, and that's how the plan came about, and it just developed from there. And then when I was planning it, the one thing I couldn't find was a narrative travel book. I just found these travel books that just said, you have to go here, you have to go
Hmm.
here. Here's a bit of a story about it.
Hmm.
You have to go here, but nothing about actually what it's like to drive up
Hmm.
through Belgium and drive a camper van, and where's good to stay and where's good to eat, what's it like traveling on your own. And I've never done a battlefield tour, like a traditional battlefield tour. And I toyed with the idea of doing one of those, but then I kind of thought, you know what, actually, I'm a bit of a selfish traveler, quite like traveling on my own. And so I thought, let's just do it. So that's where it came from, really. So, and then I just planned it from there. And then out of that came the book, then the camper history idea, then the Instagram page, and it just spiraled, really. And now it's all I think about and do. And I'm wearing one of my camper history hat. You get to, you get to design merch. Because I'm wearing your
I
t-shirt
saw, I noticed
actually.
that, I
Oh
noticed
yeah, I
that.
did wear your t-shirt. But you get to like, you get to buy a mug with your logo on it. How sad is that?
Mm.
But as a 38-year-old man, I'm going. This is my midlife crisis stage. I'm going for it.
No, I agree, mate.
But
I'm terrible for it. I'm the same. I'm absolutely the same. Anything with a logo, I think it's something we're proud of, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
I mean that could be a picture in your office, your book cover, because it's
thank
something,
you.
it's something you've done, and I think it's such a great photo as well. Um, but I think priorities change as we get older as well, and we have these interests. They're very different from what we were 10 years ago.
Yeah,
Um, and I think just life change, I think it's just priorities change, and you just want to sort of relax and just something just to sort of take your mind off things. And I think you planning this, I think it's amazing. And you're right. There's a book, I got it last year. It was like apparently this definitive guide for Easy Company, Band of Brothers Easy Company.
okay, yeah,
I think some the Bergs or something. I'll see if I can find the name, because I got it from Amazon. I think it was a
yeah.
print on demand thing. And I was cute. It was a curious purchase, and I remember reading it, and it just wasn't like, I can't remember if I wrote a review for the book as well, because it was just that bad on their Amazon page. Because I was just so disappointed with it, and you're right. It just felt like this is just for Easy Company Band, but that a very brief overview. It looked like AI had written it. It just didn't
Okay,
feel like a human had written it. Yours, it does. And they'd missed so much as well, considering it was like this definitive Easy Company Band of Brothers book as well. I felt like they missed some, and I think your book is very honest. And I think that's what makes it more
thank
human,
you.
where this book wasn't. And it just didn't feel that way. And I returned it. And obviously they didn't give me an address, they just gave me a refund. So
Right.
it went in the bin. Um, and yeah, it's just, I think that because they probably just knew the quality was terrible. Um,
Yeah.
but I suppose, where did your book idea come from then? So what was this? How did you come to, of doing this? What was your decision making behind that?
Yeah, as I said, I've always wanted to be a writer. I love to write, absolutely love to write. It relaxes me. So I've written a number of sort of fiction books which I've published and what have you. And then, um, as I said, I couldn't find anything that just told the story of traveling. It was just all these books just saying you have to go here, and they're thick,
Hmm.
and I just wanted something a bit. I say that I wanted to hear someone's story, and so I thought, well, is my story going to be interesting enough, right? What do I need to also do? And then I thought, well, you got to write about the history, but then you start getting a bit
Hmm.
nervous about, because I'm taking on then James Holland, I'm taking on Max Hastings, Cornelius Ryan, Anthony Beaver, and you're thinking, okay, well, I can't write like these guys, and they've written all about it. It's done. And then I thought, well, no one's really written, apart from one guy called Simon Lewis, no one's written film, Bridge Too
Hmm.
Far. And I thought, right, let's make this, let's combine all three passions here. And just like you say, I tried to be really honest about the good things I enjoyed, the bad things, the funny things. I had a minor toilet disaster at one campsite, which I spoke about in the book. Not for a dinner table conversation, but so it's so I wanted to be honest,
Hmm.
and I talk about packing for a trip, and I think as guys, we only end up, for some reason I take one pair of trousers but 38 pairs of pants and 17 t-shirts for a week trip for some reason, but it's just all about those things really. And I've got no worries about being honest. I'm a complete idiot, but I like to have fun with it and put it into my book. And then I just realised, oh, this might be quite fun to. How am I going to publicize this book? And that's where the
Mm.
Instagram page came from. That really is purely about just trying to publicize the book and sell the books. And then I realized actually I started getting some really good feedback from people, and I really enjoyed doing the reels and editing them. And you talking to Ben the other day about putting the drone up, and that's great fun because you get really weird looks from people as you're flying about. And putting all those together it became really really good fun, and you start interacting with the audience a little bit, and so suddenly I stopped really thinking about publicizing the book and actually just telling these stories, and that's been the best part about it.
Mhm. No, no,
So that's where it came from, really. So
no, it's really nice, and I think it's just like you said, it's a passion. It's bringing all of your passion, together, from writing to movies to traveling to using like your new camper van as well, and then to yeah, it's passion, and I like how you don't talk about Pearl Harbor, but we need to talk about Pearl Harbor as well. But one of the things, in your book I really liked was, and you mentioned it earlier about with, when, wanting to, possibly, not wanting to do a battlefield tour, having a battlefield tour guide, because you're right, and you're absolutely right on this, is, having done quite a few myself, you are limited because you've got the next place. You're always on somebody else's schedule, not your schedule. Although, if you've got a really good tour guide,
yeah,
like, for my, Yoris in Market Garden, Reg in Bastogne, Battle of the Bulge, don't get me wrong, the places they're going to take you are going to be amazing.
yeah,
But I kind of get the feeling that you like to take it all in as well. You want to be there longer than everyone else, I suppose, and I think that is quite a nice thing. And again, that reference to, Charlie, Borman and Ewan McGregor. I mean, the third season was terrible, but
yeah,
is there a fourth
yeah.
season?
They saved it with the fourth season. One
Oh,
and
they did,
two,
did they?
brilliant. Yeah, three, yeah, fourth. Yeah, I feel they brought it back in the fourth.
Well, did they use petrol bikes instead, did they?
They
Back to
did
petrol
back
bikes.
Petra, and
Thank
there were
God.
classic bikes as well. They were classic bikes they built, and I don't think Ewan did them up, but allegedly they did them up and tinkered with them, and then went on this trip around Europe, which is really cool because obviously it's on our doorstep as well. So
Hmm.
that trip feels accessible for normal
Yeah.
people like us. So
Yeah, and I think, obviously going on to the next group. But yeah, that third season was charging up their bikes. We got to get this, got to
yeah,
get to the next location to charge our bikes. And obviously felt like it was a promotion for electric bikes. I'm just
100%.
like, no, no, this is not what long way round or up and down,
Yeah.
up, down is not about. And you're right. And I think obviously coming back onto, you get to do it at your own pace. I mean, how long were you spending at each location?
Yeah, so it depends. There was a couple of days I had to rush, but most of the time I had a good amount of time, so a couple of hours per museum, and I was really lucky. There's a museum, the Liberation Museum in Leopoldsburg, the first museum I went to, and I got there at 10. It opened at 10. I was the first one through the door. The nicest people I've ever met. I got a personal guide around it. So I said what I was doing. I was like, oh, yeah, because they asked. So I was writing a book and everything. So, right, we'll get you the guide. So the guide came out and he guided me around the whole place with this personal guide, which was amazing. And in my head, I thought, well, I've got 1 hour here. Bash this out in an
Mm,
hour. I was there 2.5 hours in this one museum. And A, because they were so lovely, but the museum's fantastic. So yeah, no, I just got to take my time, and I didn't, just cruised up the road. So I didn't really drive very fast. But then my favourite days were the days I actually got out the camper van. So up in Oosterbeek, I walked the perimeter. So I can't remember how many miles it was. I was actually dead by the end of it. But I walked the perimeter. So I spent a whole day on foot and just walked to the bridge, walked to the lion route, the tiger route. Yeah, walk the perimeter, walk to the cemetery, to the Eastleigh Cemetery, and that was fantastic. But the other great thing is you kind of can drive along and think, oh, that looks interesting, and you take
mm,
a detour, and so I found some different stories that probably don't normally get told on these, on a
hmm
battlefield tour because there isn't time. So yeah, and every town, every village, every road has got a story, and they're all named up, and you spot these British names or American names, and you think, oh, I wonder why that street's named that.
mm.
And so yeah, you can go and discover these stories, and that's the best thing about the trip. And I think I wanted to try and explain through the book that it's really accessible and really it's not, if I can do it, anyone
Mm.
can just grab a car with a tent, camper van, or whatever you've got and go and do it. And it's not to take away from battlefield tours at all, because I know how amazing these guys, how hard they work and how knowledgeable they are. But I found it exciting to go and discover it for myself, really, if that makes
No,
sense.
I think that's no, absolutely makes total sense. And you've got that freedom as well. You've got the research and hell, if you don't know the story, it's like you will go and find the story. You'll use that investigative mindset
Yeah.
and you will go and find it yourself. And again, it just opens up so many more rabbit holes, so many more options of, looking at, and coming across those, like I says, those not well publicized stories as well. I mean, I don't know too much about market garden, if I'm honest. That's probably one of my
Mm.
weakest areas is market garden. And I wish I'd spent more time there when we went a few years ago when we did that tour there. I wish, because we had such a wonderful guide, but you're right, we saw the main points you could say.
Yeah.
Um, and we were just hitting, those ones where, yeah, it would have been nice to have really just go back and delve into it. And definitely something, and even your book and, is inspiring that is to go, back to these places and check them out as well. And how long did it take for the book to sort of, like, I suppose, how did you break it down as well? Like, what was your thought process on breaking down the chapters to sort of
Yeah.
giving it a structure?
I thought so. I wrote the first part before I went, so the whole planning and everything, and I kind of just wrote it as a diary. I thought if I just write this as a almost like a
Mm,
travel diary rather than a travel book, and so that's how I broke it down really. And I was lucky enough to hit certain days that matched up with the history, which worked really well. And I've managed to do Normandy in September. I'm going to Normandy in September. I've managed to do the same. So I land in Normandy on a Tuesday morning, which would have been which the day wasn't a Tuesday morning, so it's just worked out quite nicely. But that's how I broke it down really. And then say following that 34 route, it was quite easy. So starting with them in Leopoldsburg was well, starting way back actually at the Tank Museum really, but then in Dorset, then hitting their points at Leopoldsburg, and then you might as well just follow that route. So then Eindhoven is the 101st Airborne, and
mm,
though this is about Bridge Too Far, you can't go anywhere in Europe without touching on Band of Brothers and Easy Company.
mm.
So you hit those places, the Somme Bridge and their landing zone, and then yeah, just naturally made my way up Health Highway really up to Arnhem, and that's how I break the chapters down really, and then each place has a unique, I'd say, a unique story, and then each place has a unique link back to a bridge too far. So Nijmegen really is that scene with the wild crossing and Redford in the boat doing the Hail Mary full of grace and what
Mm.
have you. And so I was managed to follow that up really and rip off some of those scenes in my Instagram page, which I think is brilliantly active, but I'm not sure anyone agrees. But from my part, but and then yeah, made myself way up really, and then I say finishing up in and Deventer was a last minute thought really before I left. I had sort of an extra day and thought so I did rush a little bit. I missed a couple of things. So I didn't go into Eindhoven, for example. I bypassed Eindhoven, so
Mhm.
I need to go back there. But I wanted to go and just walk around Deventer and see the proper film sites. So that's how I break the chapter down, really. And then, yeah, that was kind of it.
I think, yeah, you're right. I think you've just said some like really great points as well with Eindhoven. Like you're making a sacrifice, which is a you can go back there again. I mean, for me, I think it's quite affordable to fly to Eindhoven from
Mhm.
from the UK anyway, but to go somewhere where they film, for you, it's going back to that movie, A Bridge Too Far, and where they, was that where they filmed the bulk of the movie and was Deventer? Was that where they filmed the
Yeah.
bulk of
So
the end?
so so the thing about Deventer is it's got a bridge that is the perfect match for the John Frost Bridge or
Hmm.
the Arnhem Bridge, which was bombed in October 44. And Arnhem was flattened, so they needed somewhere that didn't look modern, and Deventer had been relatively untouched by the war, so it just perfectly represented it. And a lot of the scenes around the bridge, like the houses that Anthony Hopkins is in, they were built on a car park. There's a car park now, and it was a
Mm.
car park then, and they built these houses up, which is really cool. But the windmill, which is in the scene where the guy tries to surrender. That windmill's still there. The tower where the four generals stood at the end, saying, "Oh, it was the bridge, it was a single road, all that. That's there, and you can go up that tower." So it's really cool. So I thought do you know what? I've got to go. You've got to go and walk the streets that Hopkins and Connery walks. You have to. You just have to.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it was a privilege. It was definitely a privilege.
I think it was worth it, wasn't it, to do that detour? Like Eindhoven, you can go back, and I think just
Yeah,
I don't know, I don't know how far away Deventer is from, but yeah, I think you have to, don't you? I think just you have to make that, you have to sacrifice something to do something, which means a lot to you. And I think you did the right for me. I mean, I think you made the right decision as well. And yeah, you could sort of see it as well, in how you talk about it, and yeah, you can definitely see the passion that you have about it, and it shows it in your book as well, and I think even what you said is, you're treating it like a diary. You've taken, did you take a diary with you as well?
yeah. Well, I had my laptop with me and a notepad, and so every night it sounds really boring actually, but I kind of like a structure. So I sort of thought, well, I'll do dinner, then I'll do a bit of editing of some reels and stuff for
Hmm.
social media, and then I'll write for an hour. So I put an episode of Band of Brothers on,
Hmm.
or I put a British Fire on, and I just sit there and write and just try and stay on top of the writing
Hmm.
as much as I could. I just get as many thoughts as I could down. I had notepads coming out of my ear. I had notes on my phone. Any way I could write stuff down.
Hmm.
I started voice recording myself as I was driving along, and listening back to that is just horrific. But it just gave me something to reference. And then as soon as I got back, I just opened the laptop and just went for it really. Um, I kind of set myself a dead. I always set deadlines. I'm a bit of a box ticker like that, and so I had this deadline in mind of getting the book out as not as quick as possible. That I wanted to rush it, but I wanted to kind of ride the wave of. I got some really nice feedback, as I say, on social media. So you kind of want to ride that wave a little bit and stuff.
Hmm.
And now I've got the structure of the book. I've started writing what I'm going to call the longest travel book. So after the longest day is my little trip there. So I've started writing the basic outline of that book. So I've got a structure now that I want to keep to, um, and it's helping me plan that trip in Normandy in September. So and then hopefully the easy travel book next May is my plan. But no clues as to what that might
No,
be like.
none, none, none.
So, so yeah.
And with Normandy, then you just covered off where I was going to say, what have you got
Sorry. Yeah.
next?
Yeah.
So obviously Normandy, and I suppose what are you focusing on with Normandy then? What's going to be yeah, I suppose a rough itinerary for that trip if you
Yeah.
want to talk about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Normandy was a no-brainer when I was coming back and wanted to realise this was fun and I want to keep doing this and learning these stories. I went to Normandy in 2002 with my grandparents, who I mentioned earlier in the podcast, and basically where I'd gone from Band of Brothers to Second Private Ryan to Medal of Honor Frontline on the PS2,
Hmm.
my focus is all on it. Oh, America! America won the war,
Hmm.
paratroopers and everything. And I
Yeah.
think I think it upset my granddad a lot. So he's like, "No, right, we're going over to Normandy, and I'm going to show you the real Normandy, and then the real war." And we did go to Carrington and Breakup Manor and St Mary Glees, and we did all the beaches. But the focus, we stayed in a chateau just off Gold Beach, which had been occupied by the Germans pre D-Day and the British post
Hmm.
D-Day, which was really cool to spend in a place like that. We did Pegasus Bridge, we focused on the British, Mulberry Harbours, everything. And then as a sort of drop in, we did some American stuff. But it
Hmm.
was like, no, we've got to go and focus on the Brit. And it was just that subtle reminder. No, actually, it wasn't very subtle at all, actually, really. But it was a reminder to me from him that there were other people than the Americans. So I'm basically recreating that trip from 2002. So
Amazing.
I found in my loft 3 packets of photos developed from
Wow.
super snaps, if I remember rightly. That's how old I am. And unfortunately I've written on the back of them because that's apparently what you did when we were old, when we were younger. So I wrote. So I'm going to remap that. So I'm heading to Portsmouth on the Monday. So I'm going to go and do the D-Day story where I went earlier on in the
Mhm.
year, and up to Southwark House where
Yep.
big D-Day map is. So I'm going to go hang out there with
That's
some
where I did
friends
my
for the
training,
day.
by the way.
Oh, was it? Oh, of course, for the military police.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
they shot. The guide was telling me they shot any naval stuff in a ship for James Bond. Whenever you see the interior of a ship, they apparently filmed it in a building in there. There's a practice control room apparently,
Oh,
right
might
by the
have
guard
been.
gate.
Oh,
So
might have
yeah,
been then. Might
so
have
yeah,
been.
But yeah, so it was really cool to go up there. I went up
Mm.
a couple of months ago now. It was wicked. So we're going to go over to Portsmouth and then get the overnight ferry because I thought there'd be something quite poignant about being in the water at midnight and traveling into Normandy, in that mode of transport rather than flying or getting the Eurotunnel. And then just following the route, so Pegasus Bridge and Ranville, and then straight over to the American side, and do some Band of Brothers stuff, of course, Utah, Omaha,
Mhm.
um, Gold, Juno, and Sword,
Mm.
and then through reading, I've tried to try and find some connections to some stories, like I do with the travel book Too Far, and I picked on a glider pilot and followed his story from England through to his death. Well, he's still missing. He's still classed as missing in Arnhem. I followed his story and researched his story. There's three or four people that I've found that have sparked an interest really. And one of them was stationed at Battle, which is literally 10 minutes from me at Battle Abbey, and he ended up dying in July of '44 during the Battle of Normandy. So I followed his story from basically my hometown right through to Normandy and follow his route, which was quite exciting
Mm.
to plan and to research. And then another glider pilot who actually died, flew out of Tarrant Rushton, like the glider pilot I'd researched before, and his glider went off course and he died about, I think, 20 miles east of the landing zones at Pegasus Bridge. And again, following his story a little bit from this country over to where he's buried. So yeah, I've got a few
Wow.
stories, and as I said, you can't go to these places without touching on bands. So there'll be
Yeah.
Chronicle Manny and St. Marie Dumont and what have you. So yeah, I'm going to try and the plan is to hit as much as humanly possible in 6 days, and write about if it works, and if it doesn't work, I'll still write about it. And like my horrific
Yeah.
toilet story, things go wrong. So you have to be honest in these books, and that's what I want to write about. So
No, no,
yeah,
I think that's awesome. That's pretty cool. Um, and I think that, following that itinerary from, 2002 as well. And yeah, gotta give it to your grandfather, for drag, I think it's a good drag though for
oh,
British
absolutely,
stuff. And because you're right. I mean, I was in like, how old was I when I was 20. Um, and yeah, Band of Brothers, yeah. So Band of Brothers was 2000, what, one? Yeah.
2001
So,
works. So
and
yeah,
yeah, I mean, even I remember watching it. Don't get me wrong, I was captivated by Saving Private Ryan. I was, and I think it was just because it was so well made, they were so well made. You can't get help, you can't help but get absorbed into these things and
yeah,
then think, oh, America won the war. And I don't think I really knew too much about World War II history. I just enjoyed World War II or World War II films. Um, and yeah, Saving Private Ryan, Band of Brothers. Medal of Honor, remember that?
yeah,
So you can't help it. And I wish I had somebody to go, hey, we were there as well. And
yeah,
and I think I just didn't know, I suppose, too much about that. And yeah, to go back there and, I think there's some great books out now about, Sword Beach by Stephen Fisher is a
yeah.
great one. And there's some others as well. I think Max
Max
Hastings.
Hastings has just done Sword. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah. So, and you got the Brothers in Arms, the Sherwood Rangers with the James Holland one. So there are
Yeah,
some great books, and I think and I think yeah, we need to do more British. I was speaking about this with Geraint Jones last week, is, we're all guilty for it, and it's just changing that mindset because we did a bloody good, we did a lot before the
yeah,
Americans, not to offend anyone, but we were at war way before them.
yeah.
Um, and we did a lot more. You got the commando raid. Oh, Ben Main told me about it. He signposted me to a documentary. Again, I can't remember it now. And it was just, where Jeremy Clarkson is hosting this documentary because he was a very good documentary presenter back in
Yeah.
the day, pre Top Gear.
Well,
And
his ex father-in-law was DC winner Major Kane from Market Gun.
yes, I am so glad. I was thinking, is it his grandfather? Yes,
Yeah,
VC winner. Yes. Let me just find this now because it's an the uh the operation was incredible, and again, it's British Commandos. Ben's gonna kill me if I forget this. Let's see if I can find. So it's called the Greatest Raid of All Time, And the raid, that's what the name of the documentary is. And it is it's called The Greatest Raid of All Time. Trying to find the name of the operation. But it's called, yeah, The Greatest Raid of All Time by Jeremy Clarkson on YouTube. Tells the audacious commando raid of the German occupied dry dock at Saint Nazaire in France in March 1942. I mean, it's phenomenal. I mean, my God, alive. I think
Yeah.
there's quite a few VC recipients out of that. I mean, a couple of hundred dead, wounded, missing, but they ram a ship into the dock
Wow.
and they had it set to explosives. And obviously, you got Germans crawling all over it. And they're thinking, oh my God, the explosives haven't gone off. So the Germans are, it's there and they're all like, going on there and rummaging around and having photos next to it. Look at this, a ship.
Wow.
Yeah, it's class. It's
That's
so
so
good.
cool.
So good.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously Jeremy Clarkson is very good and that presenting style
Yeah.
hasn't changed either. Oh, it's phenomenal, mate. Yeah, highly recommend it.
Oh, great. I'll check that out. And yeah, I mean, and say in researching D-Day, obviously I've just reread the other day Pegasus Bridge by Stephen E. Ambrose,
Mm,
and he does a really good job actually of telling that story. And that coup de main raid on those bridges is just a remarkable story in itself, and how the glider pilots went in there. Lord Lovett and his piper Bill Millen. Bill Millen landed on D-Day with a set of bagpipes. That is the most British thing
very
of all
British.
time. That would never happen in an American unit in a
No,
million years. And
no.
it's just stories like that come out of D-Day, and the majority are of these crazy British people. And I think it's the same with British Fire. Major Taken Waters, the guy with the umbrella and the bowler hat. Again, it's you just wouldn't get it in an American story.
No.
These guys are just
It's just
immense.
it's like British tradition, British tradition, British battle tradition. Absolutely there is, they have the old bugler as well.
Yes, yeah,
Somebody gets shot, somebody picks it up and they carry on doing it, it's somebody pick up the bugle, pick up the battle flags.
yeah.
It's just a very British thing to do. But mate, I've kept you for long. We've actually
Yeah.
kept for about an hour and 20 minutes, but we've been
Have we really?
recording for
That's
about
that's flown. That's flown.
we've been chatting for about an hour, officially, but unofficially it's been about an hour and 20. And obviously it's pushing on. But mate, I just want to say I can't wait. We'll do another one when you do Normandy.
Thank you. No,
And I'll put this out, I'll post a link to it as well. For the followers, to check her out and buy. But no, mate, Mike, I just want to say thank you so much for having you on. I'm glad I was able to
I,
get you on as well. And
no. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for letting me talk about the book, and yeah, and say love the podcast, love the t-shirts, good
oh,
fit. Get on the website and get a t-shirt from Leighton,
thank
100%.
you.
But no, it's been a real honour and a real pleasure. So thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure, Mike. Pleasure is all mine. And thank you all for listening.